let's see if this video sees the light of day. Hi everyone, my name is Steph, this is the Novelty Corner and welcome back to my channel, and today we are going to try something a little bit different. I don't know how this is going to go. I am going to try and give book recommendations based off random words generated by a random word generator. I suspect this is going to go horribly wrong, but we will give it a go. The way that this is going to work is I'm going to randomly generate a word and then I'm going to try and think of a book to recommend that word makes me think of. We might do 10 rounds of this, if I can manage it. How annoying is it that the word that is on the screen when I open this random word generator is monstrous, because I can give plenty of those. Like A Lady of Rooksgrave Manor by Kathryn Moon, which is just full of monsters. It's a why choose steampunk, historical, paranormal romance, paranormal erotic romance about a woman who finds herself working in a very high-end escort home. She has a group of clients. She amasses quite a number of them and they're all very monstrous. So consider this your bonus recommendation because I haven't even hit generate random words. This is just the first word that came up. Demonstrate. Not My Type by Evie Mitchell. I know I've talked about this one a lot recently, but demonstrate, for me, that links into the fact that Jay runs shibari demonstrations for people, and obviously that involves demonstrations, and Frankie is part of one of his demonstrations on accessible roleplay. Topple. Topple to fall. Why do I want to say the Guild Hunter series by Nalini Singh? I think, hear me out here, nothing actually topples over, but the series is about angels or archangels who rule the world. It is a paranormal romance series. The first book follows Ilona, who is a guild hunter. She is tasked with tracking down rogue vampires on behalf of the archangels. Vampires are created by archangels in this world, and she is asked to appear at this very, very tall building, which is the home base of the Archangel Raphael in the first book. And their very first scene takes place on the roof. And part of it is designed to intimidate Elena by the sheer power that Raphael has. But she is very stubborn and she stands up to him pretty well. And I don't know why, but this word just reminds me of that. So Guild Hunters. Angel's Blood is the first book. Calf. Okay, calf. Could be animal. Have I... there were no calves in Inner Jam. That does come to mind though. Have I read any other farm books? And this is what I mean by this potentially being a bad idea. Calf. The Chestnut Spring series, I don't think they had cows. Have I read a book with cows? I don't know. I think we have to go with my first thought, which was In Jam by Canterbary. Just because it was a farm, and that was the leap that I first made. I can't remember if there are cows on there. I know there are definitely goats, but goat babies are not called calves, they're called kids. So that doesn't help. But In a Jam by Canterbury. It's set on a farm. Noah, the main male character on this farm, has a whole bunch of side businesses. There is an orchard and there is a bakery and there is the goats and there are the chickens and there are everything except cows. So apologies. That's where we are. Oh, okay, the next word, blind. Blind Pass by Teagan Hunter, which is the second book in the Carolina Comets series. And this is a, oops, we got married in Vegas and now we're going to maintain this fake marriage because publicity reasons. And you have Ryan, who is a photographer, and Rhodes, who is the hockey player. And this was one of my favorite books in the series because it is very much a grumpy sunshine story and just absolutely delightful. I love these characters, so much so that when I got my Carolina Comets jersey, I got Rhodes' name on the back. All right, new word. Analysis. Straight away, this makes me think of Ali Hazelwood books, but I don't like them, so I'm not recommending them. Analysis. Actually, I will go with Orbital by Samantha Harvey, which is not a romance. It is a lit fic novella about reflecting on humanity from the perspective of 6 astronauts who are in the International Space Station orbiting Earth, just looking down on the Earth and experiencing life very differently during their time on the station than they would if they were on Earth. And it is just a really glorious, introspective, thoughtful piece about what it means to be human and what it means to study the universe and to look down at the Earth and feel so small, but know that the people that you care about are down there and that, you know, life keeps going. So life on the space station is so different and everything just keeps turning. And I just fell in love with this book. It is totally not something I would have picked up had the cover not just grabbed me. Like, this was a total cover buy. I remember saying that and telling you guys that when I first read it. It is very much that introspective kind of look. So I'll give analysis that. Some. Okay, hear me out. I'm going to recommend a series, mostly because I'm going to go take it as some of the parts that make it up. And I'm going to recommend the CU Hockey series and the Puckboys series by Eden Finley and Saxon James, because there are characters that flow through all of these series, collectively the sum of the parts. All of these books, when you put them all together and you look at all of these characters who are ridiculous and silly and fun, they're hockey players, some of them, you know, when you put them all together, they're silly and they're fun and they're highly, highly enjoyable, and they don't take things seriously. And I think there is a real big difference between books that are trying to be funny and the books that don't take themselves too seriously and know what they are. And I think all of Eden Finley and Saxon James's hockey collaborations fit into that second category, which feels effortless to read, even though, you know, you sit there and go, okay, it's not really like this in the NHL. These characters are over the top, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's fine, but that's the point. And it's not trying to force that, it just is. And I deeply appreciate that. So collectively, the sum of all of these books are just some of my favorites. Oppose. Let's go with You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty. Am I saying that right? You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by Akwaeke Emezi, because this is about an unlikely relationship between an older man and a younger woman. They meet entirely unexpectedly and they do not intend to fall for one another at any point in time. But because of the age difference, because of her connection to one of his children deeply oppose this relationship. They are very vocal about it, and it is probably one of the biggest most distressing things about this story is how other people perceive this relationship. So we'll go with that one. 100% highly recommend this book. It is absolutely wonderful. Creep. Creep. Let's go with... Okay, Creep. Let's go with the Creature Cafe series by Clio Evans, which are really short monster romance novellas that are set around a cafe where the owner is able to matchmake humans and monsters together. So some of these monsters are just a little bit creepy, so we'll go with that. But the series is, you know, very short and just one of those series where you just pick up the books when you just want something really short and snappy to read, and is a monster romance. Pretty sure I read the entire series. Oh no, there's a new book. 2 new books. Ooh, I'm behind. They're not books you take too seriously, but they are full of different kinds of monsters. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, highly recommend that series. I have lost track of how many books or how many words I have used, so we are going to do 4 more and hope that that's 10. Adjust. So someone has to adjust to something. Okay, again, not a romance book. This one is a non-fiction. The Year I Met My Brain by Matilda Boseley. Matilda Boseley is a journalist or a social media journalist for The Guardian over here in Australia. During COVID, she received a diagnosis of ADHD for herself. And this book is about her experiences with unpacking what that means for her, the strategies that she uses to cope, the research that has gone on, the history of ADHD and how statistically women have been underdiagnosed and underrepresented in the research, and how she has been moving forward in her life since she has had her diagnosis. It is at times kind of technical, but there are also a lot of tips that she has found has worked for her in her circumstances and the way that she has managed her ADHD, and I found that really interesting. Okay, Convict. Let's go with St. Abby's Mindfuck series, which is about a female serial killer who finds herself in a relationship with the detective who is actually tasked with tracking down her. And it is very, very steamy. I actually listened to the audiobooks of these and they are just phenomenal. They have kind of ruined me for serial killer romances forever, but highly, highly recommend them. All right, novel. Oh, well, that's a bit generic, isn't it? You know what? Let's take this as novel as in something that is unique or different. And I'm going to go with Faded Blades by Ilona Andrews, which this is a sci-fi romance, and it is not necessarily going to be the most unique story out there, but for them, this is a very unique story in that it is set on another planet. You have 2 characters who are business rivals. Their families have been business rivals for a while, and they have a generational distrust of each other's families. But our 2 characters have never actually met, and they are forced to come together when their partners, their husband and their wife respectively, cheat on them and steal proprietary information from both their companies. And so they have to work together in order to get the information back and to deal out retribution on their spouses. The reason that I picked it is that there is a scene in this book that I find is one of my favorite scenes, and it is the way that they use a dance fighting style in this sort of final climax scene. And it is just so cool when it's written on page. Like, I could totally see this entire book, which is very short, it's not a very long novel, being made into a sci-fi romance movie. Like, I don't visualize, and this scene I can visualize sort of in the way that I do so clearly, because it is just described so well. And I know Dan's fighting styles are not new and unique, but in terms of the kind of books that Ilona Andrews have written previously, this is, and I really, really loved it, especially since they have these light swords that are literally encoded into their DNA that they can use alongside knowing how to fight. So yeah. Faded Blades. Ooh, gutter. Actually, you know what? Let's go with a book that I have just read recently, and that is A Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking by T. Kingfisher. In fact, I'm nearly finished it. I haven't 100% finished it, but it's the first one that came to mind. We have Mona, who is a 14-year-old baker. She lives with her grandparents, and her magic is that she can influence baked goods as they're cooking. She has created a sentient sourdough starter who may or may not eat rats. She has a loyal gingerbread man who just follows her everywhere. And in this world, there are some people who are trying to get rid of all of the wizards and magicians because they believe that they're a threat. And so Mona is falsely accused of murdering someone. And it is about her helping the Duchess of her town to fight the invading forces. And along the way, she befriends a boy who lives on the streets, and he's linked to the murder that takes place at the start of the book. There is a little while where Mona is on the run and she needs his help in order to survive. I'm thoroughly enjoying the book, by the way. Hopefully I will have reviewed it by the time this video goes up. Ooh, okay, so the next word is language. And what could I pick for this? You know what? I'm actually going to go with a picture book for this one. But really, I'm just encompassing all of this author's works. But I'm going to go with The Gargoyle by Zana Fraillon, which is one of my all-time favorite picture books now. And that's because Zana Fraillon is just a master of words and storytelling. She uses such incredible language to convey, in this story, a sense of time passing and the fact that we are dismissive of things that are old, people that are old, places that are old, and we ignore the fact that there is a rich history behind things. So in this case, we have a gargoyle who has been forced off of its perch and is evicted from a train because it doesn't have a ticket, and it leaves behind a trunk full of memories. And what happens when these memories emerge is just... I cried the first time I read it. I would probably still cry when I read it on my own. I don't cry in public when I read it, but I probably would cry on my own. It's gorgeous the way she evokes such hope and joy and love and sorrow and sadness of the way that this gargoyle is treated. Like, it's just incredible. And as I said, I've got no idea where we are in numbers. Let's do one more word. Oh, how fitting that this word is last. Last. Oh, I know. Let's go with the last book in a series. And one of the last books in a series that I read was Enemy Within by Bauer. This is part of the Executive Office series, which is a queer romantic suspense series following the President of the United States and his head of the Secret Service, who has to adjust to a new role by the end of this series. And all I can say is this series is intense, and by the time you get to Enemy Within, it's full on, it's intense. And they are having to hide in plain sight. They're having to work with the unlikeliest of allies. They're traveling all over the world into some of the most hostile environments on the planet and being hunted down by people intent on stopping them from revealing the truth, which is that their enemies are basically trying to destroy the world, like create an extinction level event. It is fast-paced, intense, I know I've said intense a lot, and just full on. Like, it is a full-on series, and I loved it to pieces. Like, I just ate it up. It is the kind of thing that could 100% be turned into a movie or a miniseries, and I would just be gripped staring at the screen. And so that, my friends, is my list of random word generated book recommendations. I'm not sure I'll do this again. This was stressful. I can't think of books on the fly. I need to pre-prepare for this. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed it. I will leave a list of all of the books and series that I talked about down below, so if you want to find out more information, you absolutely can. In the comments below, if there is a word that resonated with you and you automatically thought of a book recommendation, feel free to leave it in the comments. Please do, because that gives everyone more recommendations. I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're staying safe and healthy, and I will see you in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, everyone.